we're going to do, because we don't have a project yet, is we're going to create a new folder. I'm going to say new to-do lists. I'm going to move into my new to-do list. I'm going to do git init. It's a new folder. There's no repository. This is all brand new code. Okay? I'm going to do touch index.html scripts readme.md. I'm just creating the basic files that we're going to need for a project. Let's open up our code editor. If I look at index.html, it's empty. I need to copy the basic of an HTML file. Okay? Let's go ahead and update our scripts. Now we need to have an input. This input this is how we will get the representation of a to-do item. Now we need a button. We also should give this button an ID because we're going to reference that later. Add to do. And we're going to say add to do button. Okay? So if I go live on the server, I can see we have an input and we also have a button. If I enter something, I don't see anything happen when I click this button. So we need to capture this representation of a to-do item from the user. So let's go ahead and jump over to our scripts.js. Let's console log to make sure this file worked correctly. This has happened a couple times today. Let's just make sure we see console log. And I can see that we did successfully import our file. Okay, so now we need to make sure we add an event listener to our button so that we know when the user clicks. So we'll add onClick equals add to do. And this is a function. You can tell by the parentheses. So let's go ahead and define this function. And because we don't need any arguments, and we're going to be using JavaScript to find the input value, we don't need to have an argument. Okay? So, at this point, we need to find the representation of a to-do item from the user. I'm a user. I just typed in some stuff. Where can I find this data now? Where can I find this data, guys? In the input. How can I find it? What code can I write that will find the value that's in the input? What do I need to pass this function call as an argument to properly find this input? Well, what's the ID? How would I check? What do we got to do? Got to look at our HTML. Can we do this so far? Why? What line do I need to change? Okay, so line 15, let's give it an ID. We'll call this to-do item. Okay? So we have an ID. Now we can do document. Let's test it. Okay? Let's test it in our console. I'm running document get item.by-ID to-do item. I successfully found it. Okay? So what do we need to do now? We found the value that the user gave us. This value represents what the item is. Okay? So I'm going to store this. Now I'm going to console.log to do item because I want to make sure I did this correctly. So let's refresh. 1, 2, 3, ASD. So when I click add to do button, I can confirm that we successfully got the representation of a to do item from the user. Okay, so this application is a to-do list item, or to-do list application. So we need to have an entire list of items. How can we do this? Anyone? How can we store a list of to-dos, guys? In an array. This array is going to need to be accessed from many places in my program. So I cannot put it inside of a single function. Do let master to-do list. I'm declaring it up here because we want it everywhere. We need to be able to determine what our master to-do list is everywhere. So now I'm simply going to push this item in there. But right now that isn't good enough actually. Why? because eventually we're gonna have toggling. We're gonna be dealing with objects. So I just want to create a new object at this point. So we just say new constant new to do item equals an object. What attributes does it have? I'm going to give it that created at. We're going to do a new date, because as soon as the user creates a new to do, the most reasonable time to say that it's created at is when they click the add button, right? Now I'm going to say the body is equal to new to do item. Remember, guys, it's just a string. Okay, it's a string that's in a key on an object. That's all it is. And we're going to say default that when you create a new to do item, by default, it makes sense that it should not be done. That seems reasonable. So now I'm going to push my new to do item into the master to do list. And to confirm this works, what should I do, guys? So let's confirm. Okay, I click the button. We see that our array does in fact have one item. Okay, so that works. So now, after we push an item into it, we also need to indicate to the user that we successfully captured their representation of a to-do item. What the hell does that mean? That means we need to have a UI here, and it shows all our to-do items. So I'm just going to show a UL here. Okay, I'm going to give an ID to-do list. And then we just need to capture it. We need to capture this element on our thing, on our in our code, just like we captured the value of the input. Except I'm going to change the ID of this one right here. Okay. So let's console.log our to-do list. Let's go ahead and delete line 11 because we don't want this console log to be noisy. We'll go ahead and add, and we can see that it's null. What does that mean? It means we did not successfully find. Line 12 failed. This right here, the code after the equal signs failed. That's why to-do list is undefined. So I fucked up right here. Do this one more time to confirm. Okay, so now, because we know that this fails, let's copy this code, jump to our console, and run it again. It also failed. So what is the problem? Did I save this? Okay, the problem was I didn't save the HTML file. So this ID right here did not exist. Okay? Okay, so now we need to do something else. We've successfully figured out on the user interface where it is we want to stick our items. So now we need to have some code that will take every single item and stick that item into our UL, our user interface. So we'll just go over every single item in our to-do list using a map function. Okay? So now we're going to create a new string. We'll say const node equals to-do dot body, and then we're going to create some new text. We're just going to create any text, okay? Just to prove that this works. I'm going to use, I did this wrong. We're going to use this concatenation. We're going to use the backticks so that we can do this shortly. Okay? So we stuck our to-do body into a string. We stuck it into a string. And what are we going to do with this string? We need to stick it in something. What do we need to stick it in, guys?
Unordered list.
Have we already found that unordered list?
Yes.
Where did we find it?
The ID to do.
What line did we find the unordered list?
12.
Line 12. What variable did we find? What variable did we assign this to? The unordered list. What variable did we assign it to?
To-do list.
Exactly. So now we can do something like to-do list dot append. Append child. No, inner HTML. Inner HTML equals equals this string right here. This is what we're looking for, my bad. Equals node. So if I refresh, oh my bad, to-do.body. So if I refresh, we see that we add, but we have a problem right here. Every single time we add, it doesn't do it correctly. So that's why we need, some of us had this question about why are we using string concatenation? Because we need to have a UL that has a bunch of list elements. Okay, we don't want to have one list element. We need to have a bunch of list elements, depending on how many to-dos that there are. So what we need to do is also create a string which will be our holder. It will hold all of our to-do items in a string. So we're gonna add these. Okay? I think this should work. Add. It is not working. Oh, right here. We need to add this right down here, guys. Does that work? Let's do it this way. Node. Come on, this should work. A to-do list. Come on, man. Let's just see if this works, okay? Once again, guys, you guys see the audio errors all the time. I want you guys to constantly check. I don't know how else to say it. Okay, hold on. Save, refresh. Okay, that works. That works, okay? So let's see if we can just set this to null. Let's just see if we can add an empty string. I expect this to disappear. So it did disappear, right? So let's go ahead and test to see whether or not we can do to. Li, hello. We'll do one more. Hello again, okay? Now I'm gonna press up. And instead of entering an empty string, we're just gonna add the string that we just tested with, okay guys? Okay, we can see that that worked, right? By adding a string to the inner HTML of this to-do list right here, adding a string that contained HTML, we were able to properly add multiple items with li tags. So we just have a problem here in our string concatenation. So let's go ahead and try this. To do item. I think this should work. Fuck. Sorry guys, it's a lot of pressure to do item plus equals no. Plus equals no. Okay, I messed up this calculation, the string concatenation, guys. So it's right here. Plus equals. Okay? Please work this time. Done. 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 Do you guys see that? See how now, because of this loop right here, we're looping over every single item in our to-do list item. We're adding it to make one really big string. And this string is composed of a lot of HTML. And the reason why we wanted to have HTML is because we want it to be properly formatted when it comes down here. But what's another problem that we have right now, guys? We need to clear this input. Okay? So we need to find this element again, and we need to make sure its value becomes 0 after the user clicks it. It becomes nothing. Okay? So refresh, I type, I click, and I expect the input to go to nothing. And it went wrong. Why is this? Document.get. Oh, my bad. We want to do this to do input, okay? To do item, okay? So let's try it one more time. 1, add, 2, add. And we see that on our input, everything went to nowhere, okay? All right, what's the next thing we need to do, guys? What's the next thing we need to do? Okay, so now let's add a function called remove to do item. Okay, so we need this code to behave differently depending on which item it was that was selected, right? So this remove to do item needs to have an index. We need to determine which to do item we want to remove. The first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. We don't know. So we'll just say selected to do index. Okay? And we need to do some code here. Blah, 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 blah. But we actually haven't gotten to that point yet. Because this li element right here, we don't have anything to identify it yet. Okay? We need a way to identify this li element. So in order to do this, we're going to add an ID in our string concatenation here, okay? And we're going to say to do item dash, and then we're going to use string concatenation again, and then stick in our index. But do we have IDX yet? Do we have an index yet? No. Where can we find an index in a mapping function? Yes. This anonymous function, this callback, the first argument will always be the element of the array that we're mapping over. The second one will be its position in the array. Its index in the array. So right now, if I look, okay, well, here, let me. If I add a bunch of to-dos, right? Fuck. If we add a bunch of to-dos, and then we look at these elements, we can see that there's no way to identify them. We need to identify them. So we're going to add another ID. Okay? To do item dash, and then string concatenation. We'll stick in the IDX, we'll refresh, we'll add some to-dos, and then we'll look at this list item again. And we can see that this list item does in fact have an ID. It follows a pattern that we decided. We could have named that anything we want. I said to do item dash number or dash index. That made sense to me. Okay, so now let's just copy this string right here. And we know that in our remove to do item, we need to find an item based on this ID over here. Okay? What is the one thing that changes from these different list items? What is the one thing that's changing on this list item right here? The last number, the index. Okay, so what we can do is we can say document.get element by ID to do item dash what, guys? We can pass it the selected to do index that of the one that we click, because whenever we click on this, we're gonna have this. We're gonna have that. Oh, my bad. Actually, we need one more thing. We also need to have it on click. Say on click equals. Yeah, on click equals, and then we'll say remove to do item, and we'll pass it the index. Okay. So let's console log our selected index and make sure that we actually click something. So refresh. If I click it, I should see something. Okay, why is this working, guys? Why when I click this isn't working?
It's not a button.
Exactly. Thank God. Yes, thank you. That is exactly what it is. One thing, it's not a button. The second thing is it's not an anchor tag. So I made a mistake yet again. This right here should not be inside of a list item. Where should it be? Exactly. Okay. So href equals pounds. This right here just means don't go anywhere. When you click this, do not go anywhere. I want to stay right here on this page. So I'll copy in the attribute that we just took over from the li, and we'll test. Oh, we need to do one more thing. We need to add x right here. So let's add an item. Let's make sure we see an x. And I see it. When I click this x right here, it does in fact console log. And we do see the index of the item that we clicked. So if I click this third item right here, guys, the third item on the to-do list, what number should I see right here? Let's check. 2. Okay. So that seems interesting. We figured out how to do that. We have a problem right here, actually, though. Did I make a mistake somewhere? Why do I not see the body? Oh, we didn't close this. Okay. There we go. Okay? We all make mistakes, it's common. Okay, so I'm clicking this button, right? I'm clicking this button. When I click this X right here, for the third element, I'm seeing a 2. So we can prove that selected index right here changes depending on which to-do item that we've clicked. So how can we use this index? Well, we can look at our master to-do list, and then we can, because we know that this is an array, we can simply pass it. We can pass it that selected to-do index. And in order to prove that this works, let's store it somewhere. Not only do we need to store to prove that it works, we also need to use it later. So I'm going to say const old to do item equals this. So we're gonna test ourselves, guys, because we're not sure. Some of us have been writing code for 4 years and we still don't know if we've done it right. Sometimes we need to test. So I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna add it. Now when I click this, I expect to see in our console log an object. Why? Because master to-do list is an array. We have a selected to-do index. We use that selected to-do index to select a single element in that array. It's not complicated. I click it. We do have console logs a to-do item. So now, what do we need to do if we're removing a to-do item? Now, we need to simply remove it, right? We're removing items right now, right? So we just need to delete this. I'm getting ahead of myself, man, guys. I'm sorry. We need to remove the to-do item. So we just need to look at this index and filter out the ones. My bad, man, guys. I'm trying to do the ones for toggling. We were just doing it. So instead of, my bad, guys. So for now, because we have an index, and the purpose of our remove to do item function is to remove a to do item, we want to search through our to do list and filter out all the to do items that have the same index. So we're going to call the to do filter, or the to do function. We're going to pass it its argument. Each time the master to do list filter function fires, we're going to have a to do. It's going to represent one element in our array. So we have the to do. We check. We don't even need to look at that. We need to look at its index. And then we need to compare that to the selected index. Right? Because this one we're not actually looking at the do, we're looking at its index. Okay? So we filter it. So now that's our new master to-do list. After this is done, we want to render our to-do list items again. So for the sake of being quick, I'm just going to copy this code again, okay? I refresh, I click, I add. So if I click this button, I expect the to-do list to be shorter by one element and for it to render again. So I click, and we have a problem. HTML is not referenced, or is not defined. So we'll put this up here, copy this, and we'll do it one more time. So we add 1, 2. Now let's click 1 to remove it. That didn't work right, guys. What happened right there? Second. I clicked the second, guys. The second to-do item should be removed. Okay, so we have a problem. Is it not equal? Okay, we want the ones that are not equal to that index. Okay, so let's do this one more time. 1, 2. Now if I click 2, I want 2 to disappear. 2 disappeared. If I click 1, I want 1 to disappear. And we have a problem. Why is that? Because there's an edge case. If our master to-do list is 0 items long, we need to actually just clear this element. So if master to-do list.length is equal to 0, we're going to do something. We're just going to make this UL an empty string. Okay? So let's try it again. 1, 2. I'm gonna click it. I'm gonna click it, and it works. Okay, guys? All right, what's the next item that we need to do, guys? Toggle, right? We need to toggle completion or uncompleted, right? So we'll define a new function. We'll say toggle to-do list item. What do we need to know about a to-do list item if we want to toggle it, guys? We got to know its index, right? So I'm going to put all the argument is a selected to-do item. Now this one, we're going to do what we previously did, okay? We're going to look at our master to-do list. We're going to find the selected to-do index, and then we're going to set this to a variable, old to-do item, okay? And to prove that this works, we've defined the function, but we also still need to be able to get this function to fire. Toggle to-do list item. So what else do we need to change, guys?
Add another anchor tag.
Yes, we need another anchor tag. So I'm going to copy what we have so far because we know that works, and we're going to add it to the front, okay? We're adding the front here. And what's our on-click event going to fire? Which function do we want to fire for this one? Correct. We already have the index. Everything looks good. So now we can confirm by looking at our console log. So refresh, do 1, do 2. Where's the? We don't have a button? Why don't we have that? Anchor tag, on click, toggle to do. Guys, we have a problem. Why do we not see toggle to do list here? Why do we not see this? It's at the beginning. It's at the beginning. Is it? It's closed right here. Oh, okay, my bad. Because I wrote this code really bad. Code really bad. This is just to prove a concept that it's gonna be done, okay? This is where it needs to be fixed. So you notice that this code is repeated multiple times. This is the purpose of functions, guys. So let's refresh. There we go. If I click this, what do I expect to have happen, guys? If I click this toggle, what do we expect to have happen?
That works.
That what works?
That button works. That variable.
We haven't written that code yet. So when we, in our function right now, toggle to-do list item, what code is running? What's line 43 do, guys? Come on, guys, help me out here. What does line 43 do?
Taking the array.
We're taking the array. What are we doing with the array?
Setting the variable. The whole UI.
No, we're not setting the array to anything. We're looking at the array, and we're looking at a specific element in the array. Because what is selected to-do list here, guys? This is an index. Okay? So if I click this, and I click this, if I click toggle, you notice that the selected index right here is a number. What does this bracket notation mean? It means that master to-do list is an array. If I take an array and I call brackets and I stick a number in, what will I get? Let's test. Const an array equals 1, 2, 3, 4. If I do an array, I put in 0, what do I get? What if I do, fuck. What about an array? What if I want to get the last item? What do I do?
-1. 3.
3 also works. So we know that an array, if we call brackets on it and then we stick a number in the brackets, we will find an element that is in the array. Okay? So the objective of toggle to-do list is what? To change one to-do. And in order to change one to-do, we could change single attributes about it, but I think the best way is simply to make a new object and to stick it in that element's place. So we're going to say const new to-do item equals, and the brackets, the curly braces, what indicate what? It indicates an object. That's the data type that we have. Braces indicate an array, or brackets indicate an array. Braces indicate an object. So now we'll say, which is created at. These are the keys that we currently have, right? Our to-do, right? Our to-do, what keys does it have? Well, when we created it, we gave it 3 keys. Created at, body, is done. What is the one thing that we want to change whenever we toggle a to-do item? Yeah, so we only want to change one attribute of this object. So we're going to use the old object to help us create a new object. So if I wanted to get an object created at, what would I do? Let's just pretend an object has a key, okay? Const student equals object, student.name equals die. How can I get die from student? Student.name. Pretty simple, right? An object we just put dot and then the key that we want. So on line 45, I'm going to look at my old to-do item and I'm going to do dot created at. And I'm going to do the same thing for body because I want the same body. When I'm toggling a to-do list, I do not want to change this body. Whatever the user typed in previously, it needs to stay the same. But the is done. That's the one thing that we want to change. So I'm going to do old to-do list dot is done. And I want the exact opposite of it because toggling means if it's on, we turn it off. If it's off, we turn it on. Done. Okay? So now on line 43, we figured out how to find an item based on the selected to-do index. So all we got to do is find it and then replace that element with the new one. When this is done, we also need to run our function again, our rendering function, okay? So let's do this. And right now we can't confirm that this works. The user does not know if this works or not. I don't blame him. I can't tell if it works. I'm clicking this, I can't tell. Once again, I made the mistake. We need HTML. Let HTML equal string, okay? And we can't tell that this works. Oh, we can't tell in our console. But how many users do we expect to open up the console? 0. There's not going to be a single user that opens up the console to use our program. Our users expect buttons. They expect indicators such as strike-throughs. They expect colors. They expect all types of stuff. So how can we now determine whether or not this thing is, how can we indicate to the user that this is off or that this is done? We can do a strike-through. And how can we do that? So whenever we create this this list item, we can add a style attribute. Style equals, and inside of this, we're going to use logic. We're going to use JavaScript. In order to determine how we're going to style this. So we do text declaration, and then now we use our string concatenation, and we say to do dot is done. If this is done, we'll say line through. If it's not done, we'll say none. Okay? So let's refresh and test. Okay, so we added an item, we can remove an item. Can we toggle an item? We can in fact toggle an item. You have any questions, guys?
Can you change the name toggle to untoggle when the line breaks?
You want to change the name of the function?
I thought it was a tag. The anchor tag right there where it says toggle.
Oh yeah. So we can change that to toggle as well, yeah. So we can do the same thing we did right here, same technique. So I'll just copy this, and where it says toggle, we'll use string concatenation. Except, do we want it to say line through here? If it's done, what do we want to say?
Untoggle.
Untoggle. And if it is done,
Toggle.
toggle. So let's refresh. We're into something. We're into something. If I click this, I expect toggle to become untoggle. Untoggle. So guys, this code sucks, man. We wrote the same type of logic in multiple places. In 3 places, we wrote over this right here. So this is a good indicator that we should create a new function. Const render to do list. Okay? Now just copy all this over here, man. We can just do that, right? Does that look good? That looks okay. So now we can just delete this code right here and fire it. Let's just test if this works. Our toggle to-do list, it should render again after we add something. And it works. So remember, the purpose of a function is to have a set of instructions that we can run multiple times, right? So every single place I'm running this map, oops, I shouldn't have done that. Right here. So we can now replace every single place that this is mapped. All right, so let's just text and make sure everything works. Add it to do, add it to do, remove it to do, toggle it to do. There we go, guys. Have any more questions? Questions, guys? Okay. No? Come on, anyone questions, guys? So we add it to do, remove it to do, toggle it to do. Okay, no questions. I'm gonna let you guys keep working.